Hey guys, a bit of a weird intro, I know, but we got to do a special thing on this week's Comics Experiment, and we had to make an intro, and it didn't fit in well, and it all went a bit wonky, so I just wanted to do it this way. We're going to be sitting down and talking with Joshua Williamson about his new book, Dark Ride, but also he's going to be revealing some secrets involved in the Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths that's going on over in DC. So this is the Comics Experiment podcast. Today's guest is going to be Sal from Comic Pop. He also does a lot of stuff over on Absolutely Marvel in DC with me. It's another channel where we review stuff. And we're going to be just having a chat with Joshua Williamson. And I thought it was so good. Such a great chat. Just finding out a lot of the inner workings that you guys would really enjoy finding out about this stuff. So we're putting it up today. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, GFUEL. Use the code COMICS at checkout. And go check out Shortbox to be able to get a lot of CGC graded comic books in that you're looking for. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
Josh, you know from Dark Crisis, Batman, the Robin book, Birthright,
Flash.
Flash.
Oh, yeah, Flash.
Flash.
I wrote Flash for a while.
Yeah, Flash. The one that you all talk about, the Flash run with Godspeed, that was him.
Yeah. Oh,
what else
check
can I
this
think of?
out. Here, look at this. Yes.
Oh, and
That's
he
tight.
finally has a toy. I thought didn't
Yeah.
they make one for the CW Universe version or something?
I don't care. This is a cool toy. I'm going to open it while we're talking. I'm
Nice.
just going to open it
Here's
while
my
we're
question.
talking.
Did you
I gotta
buy
add that to my
at
collection.
Walmart, or did you get that? Did they send it to you?
All right. So I bought this. So back in the day, so I'm not going to lie about it. So back in the day, pre-pandemic, if I wanted something, I could just go get it, email them. You know, I
Right.
could just be like, yo, please send me this thing. And they'd be like, cool. Post-pandemic, it's a little harder to do that. You know, they don't have that same setup they used to have where it was really easy. You know, 'cause I go to the office, I can just walk into their toy room and grab
Oh,
one,
right.
you know? Right. I thought that
I
story
always
was
hated that toy room because there was always stuff they hadn't released yet, and I'm always like, I want the Dr. Fate helmet.
Oh,
Dude, yeah, they had two. Oh, you're talking about the other room. Yeah, that's the other secret
Yeah.
room. There's two. Yeah, there's the one you can go and you can get stuff for, and then there's the one that's literally some of the stuff will never see the light of day, like prototypes and stuff.
oh,
Yeah.
I never saw that.
Yeah, it's a different room. That one they're a little more picky about at times. But yeah, I got this one. I don't know if this is based on the show or the comic, but it still looks
Well,
cool.
okay, I gotta ask you this, and if you can't tell me, that's fine. And for everyone watching, we're about to talk about Dark Crisis, so that's what we're here
Oh
for.
yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah.
Well, all I want to know is, what did you think of their version of Godspeed that they put in the show? Because that wasn't your version. That was a different version.
Yeah, it was totally different. I mean, I like the costume. The
Yeah,
was
costume
really
was
cool,
good.
You know, it was just fun to see. I mean, anytime you get to see that stuff, it's really cool. I guess that's how I feel about it. You know, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, this is me being super candid, and you never know. I think when it first started up, I think they were just grabbing villains from the books, and the fact that Bloodwork, who was in only 2 issues of the comic, was in 8 episodes. He had a whole arc or whatever was longer. It was kind of wild. With Godspeed, I think what happened, again, this is me pure speculation, is I had talked about Godspeed being on the show a couple times. I think they were like, yeah, we're gonna grab a villain. They're like, oh yeah, we'll put him in this one episode, and then the internet lost their minds.
Yes.
And I think they were like, oh shit, because that episode, they already made it. And so they're probably, you know what I mean? They're not going to so to them, they're like, oh, he'll be in the future. He'll fight Excess. He'll be this, he'll be that. Cool. No big deal. He's a Monster of the Week villain. And then the internet goes crazy and they're like, oh no, he is not a Monster of the Week villain. So they had to double back. And I think part of the double backing made some things confusing. But just for me, it's such a win sometimes. When you just get to turn your TV in or watch videos of these characters you created, And Godspeed's funny because there were people who did not want to do Godspeed at DC, and they didn't like the name and stuff like that. There was all kinds of weird stuff. So the fact that I have a Godspeed toy is such a
win.
The vindictive part of me is just yes.
How could they not like the name when there's characters like Bloodsport?
Yes.
Dude, I know. I honestly think the only reason why I got to call him Godspeed was because, there were people who didn't like the name. They wanted to change it. And when we announced Flash at WonderCon and we did the whole slideshow of stuff.
Yeah.
When the slideshow came up with the Godspeed design, Carmine, who designed this costume, he had put in the design, he put Godspeed's name on the slide, and no one removed it. So when the slide came up and it had the design plus the name, I was like, I'm going for
done.
it.
Yeah.
I'm going.
I was on stage, people are recording us, there's people there, and I'm like, it's time, I'm going for it. And I was just like, Godspeed, blah, blah, blah. And I remember hearing this about, because Scott Snyder and Tom King were sitting next to each other in the audience when this happened, and both of them were like, "Son of a bitch!" Like that's a good name. That's a good costume. Ugh. Like, I heard from both of them after it was over.
Do you remember any of the like alternate pitches where they're like, well, maybe not Godspeed, maybe more like
Oh, I'm not gonna say any of them.
polytheistic speed?
Oh,
No,
that would've been cool.
no. There were. It was.
Is that because they're
Come up with names for the speedsters is hard. Yeah,
you got to put speed fast.
You got to put speed in the name. You
Yeah.
know, they've all got
involving. Something involving speed is always cool. Yeah, this is pretty fun. Anyway, Dark Crisis. We can
Dark
talk about
Crisis.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dark Crisis. So
what I was
Dark
gonna
Crisis
say before. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh. Well, I was gonna say Dark Crisis, which is now called Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
The first question I wanted to have is, when did you decide to make that name change? Because DC's making a big deal out of the name change.
We knew, so it was going to be called something else originally, like way back, like 2 years ago. I had a different title in mind, and it was a longer title. And we all kept kind of being like, "Oh, this is too much of a tongue twister." And then at one point, we started calling it Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, but then two things happened. Like, I just kept calling it Dark Crisis, which I still do, right? Like, it's easier. Just like how we just call Crisis, right?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of us don't say out the whole Crisis on Infinite Earths. We just go, "Oh, a crisis happened," and this is, when we talk about crisis, we all know what you're talking about,
right?
So I started just calling it Dark Crisis after a while, and then one of the editors suggested, they were like, "What if we just call it Dark Crisis and then we leave the rest off for later?" And I was like, "What does that even mean, later?"
Yeah.
And we started, and then they were like, "Well, because if we automatically right out the gate say it's Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, that kind of brings in what does Infinite Earths mean because of the 52 setup, right?" And I was like, "All right, that's interesting." And listen, I love gimmicks, and like I love all the like little random stuff we can do, and playing with people's expectations and just like getting people to talk about the book in different ways. It's kind of like,
right,
spoiling that the Justice League were going to die in 75. Like, that was intentional because it's like, let's just go for it, in some places. And so with this one, I was like, all right, let's try something different here and put this aside. And then we talked marketing and sales about it. And then eventually it was like, all right, cool, we're calling it Dark Crisis. And then halfway through, we'll switch titles. When the Infinite Earth return, we'll switch titles.
Okay.
So
you knew from the get-go.
Yeah. And here's the thing that's funny about this. It's like, it's interesting to see people kind of talking about it, but it's like, this is comics right now. It's so hard to be noisy in comics. Like, you have to be noisy. There's so many books. There's so many good books. There's so many publishers. There's so much going on. Like, you have to find ways to remind people your book exists after issue 1 comes out.
Yeah.
Right? Because like issue 1 comes out, we all go hard, right? All of us, marketing, like everybody goes real hard, on issue 1, and then you get to like issue 3 of a book and people stop talking about it. And you have to find ways to like ramp that back up. And so I think the idea of making it so that like, we're going to do, 1 through 3 is this title, and then 4 on will be the real title. Dude, it not only did the conversation like explode after that, dude, like the first 3 issues sold out after that.
Yeah.
We had to go, dude, we had to go into 3 printings, like for the first 3 issues because of that. So it's like that kind of stuff, like it ended up working. It ended up working in a way that I was surprised by, because there was a part of me, even in San Diego, Daniel and I were talking about, we're like, this is cool and it's fun and everything. I'm not sure if it's actually going to work,
Right.
And when we did the panel at San Diego Comic-Con, it was crazy because, it's like I like going to conventions mostly to meet fans. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like about seeing my buddies a lot of times, but I like to go and talk to readers, talk to fans, go to panels, get that vibe, get that energy. And we did the Dark Crisis panel, and it was like one of the best panels I've ever done. Like, the energy was really good, the audience was good, like people were reacting the way we wanted to. We had like a running theme, things were working out.
Nice.
And walking away from that panel and having people from DC come up to me and talking about how happy they were about the panel, but then having people like all con long just coming and being like, I didn't care about Dark Crisis until I went to that panel.
Yeah.
And then they were like, now I'm in, now I'm here, now I'm excited.
Right.
Like, that stuff was really awesome. And I think a lot of that came around to having that title change. Like, it really, it gave it a new, like, I'm not sure, not a breath fresh from air, but just the idea,
like a second life. Like, you gave it like you kicked it in the pants. It's like, because you need like a halfway. If you're going to have like a 7-issue miniseries that is going to be like a line-wide event, you got to do something in like, by the halfway mark that just goes like, yo, rattle some
Yeah,
cages
exactly.
and get people in.
Yeah.
Back in
I was
it.
going to bring that up actually because I've seen that multiple times now. Marvel and DC both do long events, and normally when I look at it, it's like, okay, so this event's going to come out once a month for the next 8 months.
Right.
How are they going to keep as someone who like literally makes videos and reports on stuff and tries to get people hyped up at different events?
Yeah.
As it drags on, it gets harder and harder for me to get people interested. I have to come up with more and more crazy clickbait.
Oh,
and how many times? And well, and the worst
guess what?
part is-
Batman died again. No, he didn't really, but he almost did.
Yeah. Well, and the worst of it is like that like there are a bunch of events that we won't name because we don't want to put anybody under the bus.
Yeah.
That like where there's this big big deal.
Yeah. What? No.
There's a big deal. There's a big trailer. Everybody's talking about it. You get to issue 4 and like, or the event's over and people are like, oh yeah, the event. Did that wrap up?
Yeah, I've seen that a lot of times.
Yeah.
I'll put out the finale. I'll put one thing under the bus because I don't know who. No, I don't know. I didn't know.
We don't know who Josh is affiliated with. Let's.
No, I couldn't remember who wrote that, and I was like, I don't think it's anybody big. No, wait, that is. Never mind.
Yeah, don't get me in too much trouble.
No. But there was an event that recently came out that got hit with a 2-month delay. Like it was like it's
that's always
no one remembers it was happening.
Yeah,
like I'm putting out the last issue real soon so people can be like, oh, here's how it resolved, and no one remembers it was going on. So like
the scheduling stuff is hard. It can be a bit of a bummer, but the thing about the title change, the actual thing that won me over with the title change stuff, like back, I mean, the decision was made, I think like January or December. I was definitely skeptical about it at first, but the thing that won me over is, and I'm a continuity junkie, and like I love like DC Comics publishing history. I find very fascinating. When Countdown to Infinite Crisis was announced, it was just called Countdown.
Yeah.
It was not called anything else until the day it came out.
That's right.
And so that was one of the things that we had thought about, was that like, oh, we're not going to tell anybody that until issue 4 comes out, when the retailers get it in the mail, or in the shipment.
Yeah.
But then we were going into San Diego, and we're like, we should announce it at San Diego and do it on this big stage and actually do it up. And I've also learned that like it's so hard when you make things like that happen. It's so hard to keep that buzz going, because like when we did Connor Hawk and Robin, we made it so that Connor Hawk was blacked out on the cover to issue 3, and once it was revealed that Connor Hawk was going to be a supporting character in Robin, let me tell you, it was so hard to get every single one of those covers fixed. Like every website, everyone kept using the blacked out version. Even like previews like were sent out that still had the blacked out version. And it was always like, oh my God. So I've learned a lot of stuff the last couple of years about when you want to go for it, you got to go for it, because you only get so many shots at selling these books. You got to be able to get that information out there as best as possible. If there's any confusion, it can hurt. So with this one, it made sense for us to do it this way, and it worked out. The book sold really well because of it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it did. I'm enjoying the ride for this one in general.
Thank you.
What was the decision to propose? I wanted to. This is way back how the whole thing started, and you kicked this whole thing off with the death of the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this related to what you just said? Going all in, just being like, we're killing the Justice League, we're doing it, we're going in.
We had a meeting. We had a call maybe back in. God, it was a long time ago. It was like. It was in death metal planning stages, so it was like that far back, right? So it's in that bridge between metal and death metal. We're having all these different meetings how death metal was going to be, and I remember there was a phone call, and we were having this whole conversation about Justice League, and this event. I've been in a lot of summits at DC over the last 7 years, and so I would always make little notes to myself of like things you overhear or little. Ideas that don't quite make it in that moment. And, we had there are moments where we've had summits where we've come up with all kinds of ideas. And then like the next day we're like, all those ideas suck. We're not doing them. Like in the moment, you're just like, oh my God, we're geniuses. Like, look at these ideas we came up with. And the next day you're like, that's not working. But then every once in a while you find stuff that you're like, that's cool. I can't do that now. Right.
Okay.
And that was with Dark Crisis. There was a lot of stuff, I've always been obsessed with the idea of sidekicks and the idea of the next generation characters. Like, I mean, we've talked about this before. Like, I think that DC Comics is at its best when it's like growing, but it uses all the pieces, all of the mythology, not just the new, not just the old, Doesn't have to
Yeah.
always be all about the core. Like it can be about how DC's a bigger thing. And
Yeah.
I've always
this-
liked the idea of
Go ahead.
people aging up and like you did with Robin, finally
Yeah.
aging up. He's not stuck in that same loop. I've seen him in 5,000 times. He's
Yeah.
progressing. I always like the idea that the characters can grow and age and learn, and then we can move on to the next hero.
I think that, you know, after New 52, like a lot of toys got taken off the table when New 52 happened. And, you know, ever since Rebirth, like I say we, but I, you know, like we've been trying to put these toys back on the table, you know? Like when I first got the Flash job, that was priority number one, was like, how do I get Impulse back? How do I get Max back? You know, how do we get Wally back? And then I found out Wally was coming back, and I'm like, all right, one down. You know, it's like going through and trying to figure out how to get all these pieces back on the table, but then also play with them. You know, not just get them on the table and then wipe them away. I mean, that was always a thing before. It was one of the bigger challenges, I think, during the Rebirth era, was if you pitched bringing something back, you had to have a plan for it. And it's still true. You can't just bring it back and then be like, look, here's this thing.
You're welcome.
It disappears forever.
Good luck with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your Connor Hawk
you
example is a great example. You actually used him. He didn't just show up, fight, and was like, all right, hope someone else enjoys that toy.
Yeah. Anybody else got a pitch? Anybody want to talk about Connor
Yeah,
Hawk?
we used it for a whole year. And there's
Yeah.
other, and you know, there were a lot of people at DC who really love that character. And so they're finding other stuff for him to do, you know? So it's like, but to your question, so in my notebooks, I had this meeting one time on the phone, and we were all talking about different ideas, and I wrote in my notebook Death of the Justice League, and I was like, okay, because I wanted to do something about the other characters, right? Like I've seen a big event from Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman's perspective. I've seen it many times.
Yeah.
And I wanted to try something different. And if you go back, because, you know, like Infinite Crisis is great. It's very much a Superman story. Like it starts off with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, but it is a Superman story. And, you know, Final Crisis in a lot of ways is a Batman story. It's also Superman, a fourth world, but Batman plays a major role. You know, Blackest Night, you know, is obviously about Hal and a little bit about Barry, but, you know, I wanted to try something different, like a different perspective. If you go back and look at the original Crisis on Infinite Earths, you know, it's actually not really about all the main characters. You know, it's like Pariah is pretty much the main character of that story. You know, you have Pariah, you have Dr. Light, you have all these, you know, all these characters you don't normally see kind of, you know, able to level up or be around, and obviously new characters like Pariah, Dr. Light. Like Hal Jordan is not really in the original Crisis on Earth at all. No. Yeah, so it's like, you know, and Barry dies in it.
Yeah, I don't think Batman's around much in the original.
He's there, but like he doesn't do anything. Like he and
not the same
Robin,
kind
like,
of
you're
role.
big for us, old chum.
I mean, that's
well,
like,
a lot of them just stand in the background just to be like, they were there, but
they were there.
Saw it.
Well, that's what's so fascinating now. Like, I mean, you know, people when they do this, we were about to talk about before we started recording, but it's like now when someone does an event, like it feels like it has to have Batman in it. You know, it absolutely has to have Batman in it. You know, and it's like, you know.
So, for those who are watching, before this, I made the joke of you have Batman in the event. It's a Batman event. It's a Batman thing going on. And your response was, Batman's not in it. I'm not doing Batman. So, so people know what we're talking about.
Like Batman didn't show up until today's issue, until issue 4, right?
Yeah, you actually didn't realize that because you did Shadow War, which kind of removed Batman from the main stuff in general because he's off doing Shadow War. So I didn't even think about that just because you're right. When I think about things like Crisis or an event, by default, my brain goes, Batman's there. Batman's a part of this.
This is what's funny with this one is that like he's not even really Batman because we explore this in the Batman one shot, but he's actually not really Batman. It's called the Knight. Like he calls himself the Knight. So it's like I wanted to just do something different, you know, like since the Justice League is dead and these characters like getting to show, you know, it's like in this issue we have a big scene with Nightwing and Alan Scott. Like I mean, the idea of having an event comic that does not have the Justice League as like the forefront, don't get me wrong, they're really important to the story, but having these scenes with characters you don't normally get to see interact with each other, right? Like, you know, seeing the two Swamp Things talking to John Kent.
Like, I saw did you see it too? I saw on Reddit, what was it, today? Someone said, why are there two Swamp Things?
Hey, now you know.
and well, yeah, and you should read the
Swamp Thing book. It's an excellent book.
I loved when you use this as a way to get Nightwing to kind of stand up, and like you were implying, like Black Adam knows who should lead, and it's Nightwing and Deathstroke, and then Nightwing just gets beat, and then I was reading it, and I'm just like, oh my god, when you had Cyborg Superman arrive, just to be like,
oh yeah,
what do we do now? Oh, John, hey, we got this.
yeah, John's coming in, but it's supposed to be brutal. Yeah, I just wanted to like, I mean, the DC universe is so much bigger than just the Justice
Yeah.
League, and
Yeah, than just
oh, yeah.
Batman and OMAC.
just Batman. And listen, I love Batman. Don't get me wrong. Like, I have a Batman tattoo. If you guys saw the other half of my office over here, there's so much Batman shit in here. It's
Yeah.
insane. I have a lot of Batman stuff, so But that being said, I just wanted to try something different. I mean, that's what it was. Was all these ideas. I mean, I had a lot of meetings with them about the sidekicks, and it felt like the word sidekick sometimes was like a dirty word.
Yeah.
So I was like, but they're cool, and there's something that is, for the most part, and this is kind of changing a little bit. Sidekicks are primarily exclusive to DC Comics.
Yeah.
Like the idea of the legacy characters and sidekick characters, it's very much a DC thing. For a long time it was sidekicks and the multiverse, but Marvel just had a movie literally about the multiverse. Has multiple movies with the multiverse now.
Marvel
it's
always
like a
seems
major
scared of the
piece of it.
multiverse. Like
Yeah.
they would always dip their toes in it, but be like, but we're not really gonna play with
Oh
it.
boy,
Marvel did have a book dedicated to the multiverse called What If, and it's like 5 volumes of that book. So
Oh, I know. Well, they've dived headfirst at this point, but
Yeah,
you know,
at this point,
so-
they're all in.
they're
people
all
are
in.
bloody Grass Tyson about it now. Like it's a regular word in the vernacular.
Oh,
now.
I know, dude. I remember. Oh no, that's a story from the other day. I was about to talk real time out of school. All right. Anyway, so with this, I really wanted to do something with the sidekicks, the new characters. It's like, I talk about this a lot, but it's like when I started really getting like hardcore into DC Comics, it was during that time period where all this new stuff was getting introduced. So you had Tim, you had Connor, you had
Kyle.
Connor Hawk, and Kyle. Yeah, Kyle's a big one because like I'm a big Green Lantern fan, but when I was a kid, like Green Lantern, there was a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you sit down and you go to read Green Lantern, there was a lot, and like John Stewart's over here in Mosaic, and it's like there was a Guy Gardner book, like there was a lot going on, right? Where he was a Yellow Lantern,
That's the
It's
thing. Like, it was such a great, like, no context kind of Wild West where you pick up a book and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, here's Maxima, who's like, what? And Guy Gardner,
yeah.
who you knew was a Green Lantern, but is wearing a G and has a yellow ring. And you're like, well, what's the
Yeah.
yellow ring all about? And then it gets you down the rabbit hole, which is cool.
I got
And-
into the warrior phase when he was the warrior.
Oh,
with
no.
The aliens.
Oh, bro, let me tell you who I love me some Warrior comics, dude. Like one of my favorite comics ever made is I think it's Guy Gardner 30, right? It's
Is it the one where it
that has
opens?
Yeah, it opens. Yeah, it's Warriors Bar, and it's drawn by Phil Jimenez, which is just this amazing thing where it's basically opening night at Warriors, and Guy Gardner throws a party, and everyone shows up, and Lobo gets there, and he has like a little interaction with Superman where like basically Superman bounces Lobo. It is awesome. It is an awesome comic book of just like the heroes of the DCU just chilling for like a whole issue inside of Guy Gardner's bar. And there were 2 covers to it, but one of the covers was it was a gatefold.
Yeah.
And it looked like the front doors of Warriors Bar, and you
That's
could
the
open
one.
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. So listen, I was all in on Warrior too. No shame, no shame. So
I love when he references it once in a while. Like I had a bar. It's just like, oh yeah, you did have a bar.
Dude, no,
Where's
that
the
bar should still be standing as far as I'm concerned. There should be a franchise of Warriors bars. But so, when I was a kid and I was getting all these different things, it was kind of interesting to have this moment where it was like Hal Jordan went crazy, and started killing Green Lanterns. So as a kid, you're just like, holy shit. And this is something that happens a lot in comics. Like, you got to make sure things happen. Like, I know that sounds silly, like, but you got, like, shit's got to happen that makes people go, oh, shit. Like, you got to pull the rug out from underneath them every once in a while. And that was pulling the rug out of everybody. Like, when Hal Jordan decided to go nuts and start killing the Green Lanterns, I know the parallax of it all, but in that moment, Hal Jordan went crazy. There was no hints of parallax.
No,
like, not really.
That's a retcon per se. Like,
Yeah.
So
Hey, it worked. It's great. But this is the thing. After that, here comes Kyle Rayner. And this dude knows nothing about Green Lantern mythology. All he knows is that this Guardian, this little blue dude, gave him a ring. It was like, it's up to you. And he's like, what? What am I supposed to do?
That's it.
And doesn't know anything else. Doesn't know anything mythology. All he knows is the most basic, like, I have this ring and I'm supposed to be a hero.
Yeah.
And a lot of fun and games, like hero arc stuff going on. But when that was happening, for me, that was like an entryway into the Green Lantern mythology, because then it was like, here's this brand new person sort of explaining this big mythology, and then you know, he became an important part of that Green Lantern mythology, and now here we are, we have all that stuff back, it's all cool, we have all these great characters, and actually it really added a lot of cool pieces to that mythology. You know, you have that time period with Hal and what happened because of it. You have kind of the bitterness among some of the Green Lanterns, but you have that great character arc for Hal. You get all those Green Lanterns got to come back, like, and Parallax, who is this major villain. Like, a lot of the stuff we have involving the different lanterns, all this stuff came because of this one crazy moment. But so for me, I've always been fascinated with, like, all right, how do you pull the rug out? How do you introduce new stuff, and then use that new stuff to continue to build the mythology? So with Dark Crisis, I was like, all right, I want to take all these pieces, like all this fun stuff that's out there, and just put it on the table and just have a good time with it. And you know, obviously, yeah, it starts off with something dark like death, but I think that's the thing, is everyone expects someone to die in an event. So I'm like, all right, let's do it at the beginning.
Yeah,
let's do all the death at the beginning.
Just get it out of the way,
and then
just move on.
Just get out of the way. And then make the story kind of about that, and then make it about how these characters are reacting to death, and how, you know, like John is like, oh my god, my dad is dead, and then Nightwing is like, it'll be fine.
I love that moment. That moment
Yeah.
was so incredible. It was just like, oh yeah, even
Pleased.
you're acknowledging this has happened. We're not. This isn't new.
Yeah. And then you have Black Adam kind of going through what he's going through, of just like, well, I saw it happen, and I fully believe, and the rest of you suck. So like, we're totally screwed. And you know, and Black Adam's emotional arc across the book is like one of my favorite pieces of the whole thing. But yeah. So it was definitely something that was built for a long time, that started to come together toward the end of me writing Flash. Like, basically, by the time I got to the end of Flash, I started really pulling the pieces together. And you know, James was in, at that time, because you're talking about end of 2020-ish, right? Like, September,
you closed out Flash.
2020.
Yeah, like
September
in the
of
middle
2020,
of COVID, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. So James was you know, fully in Batman land at the time. You know, Scott was planning his creator-owned empire post Death Metal, and at the time I was kind of like, all right, well, James is going to work on that side of things, I'm going to work on the other side, and that's where Infinite Frontier and, you know, Justice Incarnate, and even like Deathstroke Shadow War stuff started to come from. Even though I pitched Shadow War like a really long time ago, but all these pieces, I was like, I want to do a story about this other side of things. So if James is going to take over this side, I'm going to take over this side. And then, you know, when James left, then I was like, okay, I guess I'm also writing Batman for a little bit. I was kind of managing. It's crazy that I basically did a Batman event like the days before a bigger DCU event, but I made it all work out, and it all came together. A lot of planning, a lot of whiteboards, a lot of Zoom calls, man.
I'm trying to think of another Dark Crisis question to kind of close out our Dark Crisis discussion here.
Yeah, I can tell you that you're talking about secrets. I can tell you what the titles of all the issues are going to be. So,
okay, let's do that.
Issue 4, what is issue 4? So in each issue we have like a title card that tells you what that issue is called. And this one is called Crossovers, right? Issue 4 is called Crossovers. Issue 5 is called Together. These are all kind of spoilers. You kind of figure some stuff out. So issue 5 is called Together.
No, I assume Together's not a spoiler. You must mean like together, like the bad guys are together, and they're gonna.
Oh sure, yeah. It has no clue at all for anyone who's a DC fan of what that could possibly mean about 5. No. 6. It works on multiple levels. I promise. 6 is called Legacy War, and then 7 is called New Dawn. So you'll see.
Okay. So I assume 7's the finale.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be some ramifications that lead off at other things. You never know.
Yeah. No Dark Crisis Omega or.
There's some stuff coming. Man, Sal, you came real close. You came real close.
I like that.
I will say not everyone.
Pause.
Yeah, I will say not every one shot has been announced.
Okay, all right, dope.
Sal, you're like right at the end.
I'm
you were
sorry,
close, dude. That's really funny. But there's more. Yeah, there's some stuff coming, and there'll be some ramifications that we deal with next year, and you know, maybe the year after that. You know, so you'll see. Like we definitely planned some things out, and you know, that was a part of Dark Crisis, is to make sure that some of those pieces, you know, went out into the world, and yeah, there'll be some fun stuff.
Yeah, because I know that there is some speculation. There's some questions about where this is leading and if it's going anywhere, or if it's going to result in a big universe shifting reboot or a complete line wide reshuffling. We're going to kill Batman forever.
I like
you know,
it. Did you just go to the theory Reddit? Is that what you're doing? At
No,
this point?
these are things that people who like. I'm in the know about DC, and I can tell
Dude,
you
it's
that
so
this
funny.
is going to happen. And I'm like, that's not what's going to happen. Like,
You know, I said in the very beginning this was not about a reboot.
right.
Right.
And it's not about like reality getting changed, or rewritten again. Like that was not what it was going to be about, and it's still not about that. It's about the characters and them going through this experience together, and then what it's like on the other side of a big experience like this. It's there definitely are some major ramifications from this event that will carry through to the future of the DCU. But yeah, there's no reboot. Like it is funny whenever people come to me at a con or something like that, and they're just like, "Oh, I know it's getting a reboot," and I'm like, "Dude, I've already written books that come out after this, and I promise you, it's not a reboot." Well, it depends on what people called Rebirth. People were calling Rebirth a reboot when it was a refresh.
Yeah. I mean, people call it Rebirth a reboot. What was the Infinite Frontier? When Infinite Frontier came out, everyone was like, "This." The rumor said this was a reboot, and this must be all of the rumored 5G stuff. And I'm like, or it's just another event. It could be anything. You don't know what.
You guys know me. You guys know me. You know how obsessed I am with continuity.
Yeah.
Like, let's throw it all out.
How hard it's been to try to get everything back on the table. Like that's like I built this gigantic Lego set, and I'm just like, "Yo, man, I did it," and then just throw it on the ground.
Yeah.
I tell you something. I have never destroyed a Lego set. They're all still built.
Can't bring myself to do it.
We're just in a day and age where every one of their brother likes to gain any kind of like clout in any field that they're in by making up a rumor, hoping that they're right. Because Sal and I have had this discussion a lot. Where this comes from, and you'll see it a lot in the Marvel movies. If I tell you 50 ideas I have that are rumors because I heard from an insider, and I get one right, that's the clout.
I'm Nostradamus now.
Now I'm a trusted source.
Remember when WandaVision was coming out, and every episode somebody was like, Mephisto was coming. And not only that, but they were like, remember that fucking fly that was flying around that scene? That's Mephisto. Like, that's how bad it was, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's like that with everything.
But then after the show was over, the people who worked on the show were like, we didn't even know who Mephisto was until people started saying Mephisto was going to be in the show, and you're like there's a nervousness to that because those people are just like, they're so hardcore, like this is going to happen. And then,
I loved in Loki. Loki had a moment where it looked like it was going to be Mephisto, and they were like, see, he is coming in. And it's like, do you guys really think Disney's gonna make the devil? We're just going down that road.
Yeah, it's a
Dude, I thought Sleepwalker. I was so sure that Sleepwalker was gonna show up in Multiverse of Madness. I was so sure.
Oh my god, that would.
I'll tell you why. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Now we're going on this weird random thing. So before the movie came out, they do that thing where they do those toy drops, right?
Yeah.
They do those toy drops. And the toy drops are always related to something that's coming. I mean, they have a system. It's awesome. Like the day She-Hulk episode 1 premiered, the next day pre-order that She-Hulk toy. Like they have a system. It's
totally
right. Yeah. And so they were like, right before the movie came out, they were like, here are a bunch of Doctor Strange toys.
Yes.
And almost all of them were related to the movie. And then in that batch, randomly, was Sleepwalker toy. And I was like, yo, like, that means Sleepwalker's shown in this movie. And then when you're watching the movie and they're like, what's the worst thing you can do as a wizard? It's sleepwalking. They literally say that in the movie, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in the theater just like, 80 minute now Sleepwalker. So I had an editor. I'm not going to say their name, but I had 2 editors at DC Comics sitting next to me. We all went and saw Multiverse of Madness, right? And, but I had 2 editors with me and we went and saw that movie. We're getting to spoilers in Multiverse of Madness if anyone hasn't seen it.
It's on Disney Plus.
That part where the Illuminati shows up, everybody in the theater is losing their mind. The editor sitting right next to me when Professor X showed up, that dude literally stood up in the theater. It was like, literally, I kid you not, I've never seen an adult do this in their entire life. He stood up and went like this. He was like, give it to me, baby. I'm not joking around. I was like,
Whoa.
what is happening right now? So,
Yeah.
This is the
yeah,
guy I
so-
don't bring to another movie.
so everybody in this theater is losing their mind. I'm just sitting there like, where's Sleepwalker at?
Where's Sleepwalker though?
The whole
Dude,
movie long. It did not
Imagine.
kill my enjoyment of the movie, though. At the end of it, I was
No.
like, that was fun. I mean, listen, the moment he had the cape made of souls, I was like, dude, if I had seen this movie when I was 13 years old, I would have left that theater being like, that is the greatest movie of all time.
Yeah, I've never seen anything
Like,
better than that.
yeah, I would be like, that's it right there. That's my favorite movie. That would have been
Yeah.
it for like the rest of the summer. Like I would have been like, it's all about Doctor Strange. You know, I would have been hardcore.
Yeah.
But it is funny when people go in and they have this expectation and then you don't match that expectation exactly. And that's even with this. Like I think people will be with Dark Crisis to bring it back around. There are certain things that we did on purpose to kind of mix it up a bit. And it is funny. People are like, well, they have an expectation of what a crisis is.
Totally.
And this is not exactly that. Because I didn't want it to be exactly that. You know why? Because you already have it.
Right.
So
Oh, yeah.
it's like, all right, we got to try something a little different with
Well,
something. There's a
you're in a
couple things coming up.
where
Yeah,
you're
go
in a
ahead.
situation where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if you made it exactly
Yeah.
like the classic Crisis, then you'd be getting, oh, we already did this. He's just copying it, trying to play on nostalgia.
Yeah.
But by you doing
Yeah,
something
yeah.
different, the other response is, oh, but I just want to see the Justice League in here. Why did you kill them? What's John doing? Screw this. You know,
Dude, let me tell you, when it was announced that I was doing, this has happened a couple of times. Like I've seen this a couple times on Flash or in books, but I remember when it was announced I was doing Robin. Somebody tweeted at me. They were like, I can't remember the exact phrasing of it, but it was like, I hope you do something really original with Damian that is exactly like what Grant did in Batman and Robin. And I was like, what?
Why would that be
That's-
original?
that is in super conflict with each other.
Yeah.
Right? Because I understand what they're saying. They're like, oh, you know, the stuff with Damian was different. But you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
that kind of mentality sometimes where it's like, this better be very, very new and original, but be exactly like this thing I loved.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I feel like that's half the
dynamic
fandoms right
is
now.
hard.
Everyone's like,
Oh,
I want
yeah.
it to be new, and I want to be. I want you to subvert my expectations, but I also want to remember all the good stuff that I enjoyed, and I
Yeah.
want it to
Hold my hand,
reminisce.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh dude, this is one of the hardest parts of the job is trying to navigate all of these things. And at some point you have to tune it all out and
Yeah.
just do the best you can on the story, you know.
I mean, that's the big problem with Star Wars in general right now. We want new Star Wars, but we want the old stuff back, and we. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, it can get noisy, so you have to find a way to kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, like you have to at some point boil it down to what do I want to,
Right.
you know,
Right.
because really as a creator, like you know, when you get some distance from something, if you're unhappy with it, you failed.
Yeah.
Like that's it. If you this is something I learned a long time ago. Like I had I've had some downs in my career at times, and I remember there was a particular one like 10 years ago, and I remember thinking about it and being like, it came down to this, like the comic book I was making, I wouldn't have bought. Like as
There you
a
go.
person that goes to the comic book store every week, I would have skipped it. I would have flipped through it
Yeah.
and put it back. Or I wouldn't even looked at it. I've been like, yeah. And I think that that's the thing that at the end of the day, like I always have to keep that in mind of like, would I buy this? Would I have been excited? Would I have popped for this? Would I have got to this last page and been like, hell yeah? Like if that version of me would not feel that way, that I'm failing someplace. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to kind of tune you have to tune the fandom out. Dude, one last thing about the Star Wars fandom thing that's really funny. So when Galaxy's Edge opened up, my family and I were already planning to go to Disneyland. And so like it was the second week Galaxy Edge had opened. And they had a thing where it was like if you had already made a reservation at the hotels and you were all set up, they gave you a block of time to go into Galaxy's Edge. You had to do any. There was no lottery. They were just like, this is your time to go in. Right. And so we were all pumped. You know, my wife was like 2 months pregnant, and my daughter was turning 3. But you damn right we were going into Galaxy's Edge. You know, like we were there at like 5:30 in the morning to get in there because our get in time was like 7:30 or something like that, or maybe 8. We were gonna be in that damn park.
Yeah.
And I had my 2 best friends with me, and we were gonna go in there. And it was a mob, dude. I mean, you're talking about so many people, and I have pictures of the mob in front of me when we got there that early, and there was still just like a mob in front of me. I remember one point turning around looking back, and there was a crazy mob behind me, like one of the craziest things I've ever seen of like people waiting in line to get into something. And I was taking pictures of it, and I was like, this is nuts. So you get in, and we immediately go to like the cantina to try to like get your wait time for that. And we were just like grabbing stuff. We were buying stuff. Of course, we wanted to go on the Millennium Falcon ride, and we had this whole plan set up. I mean, we ended up going on that like 3 times in a row, because once you get going, it worked out. But one of the biggest things we wanted to do is we wanted to take a picture in front of that giant ass Millennium Falcon, right?
Yeah.
So we get over there, my family and my friends, we get over there, and the way they have it set up is they actually had a perimeter around it. So if you wanted to take a picture, you would do it one at a time, right? Like you go up, they would take the picture for you.
Yeah.
And that way it's not you with like a mob of people, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone's not mobbing the Millennium Falcon at the same time, right? You could take pictures of it, but there was one spot in particular that you could go up, and there was like no photo bombing. It was just you, your family, your friends, whatever, for this one picture. So we get up there, we take it, looks freaking cool. I posted online. I'm like, we're at Galaxy's Edge. Look at this, dude. People were like, look how much this park is a failure, because look how dead it is, because there's nobody around the Millennium Falcon. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, like, dude, no, like I'm here. I'm physically in this, and it is bonkers, and people are happy and losing their minds. Yeah. I will say this.
I've been there.
Dude, it's awesome. I will say this about Galaxy's Edge, and I'm gonna jump off of this to talk about Dark Ride.
Yeah, I was like, Dark Ride is still on our list here.
Star Wars fandom is so crazy right now that like my 2 buddies and I, we were waiting in line for the Millennium Falcon ride. We were literally whispering to each other what we thought about the movies, because we were like, we don't want anybody in line to hear us and get upset at us. And so we're like, this is how bad it is right now, that we're literally in Star Wars land, in a Star Wars like line for a Star Wars ride, and we're fucking whispering each other about what
I don't want to share my opinion about Star Wars.
Yeah, because one person in line be like, what did you say? Some so we were like whispering each other. That's how crazy the fandom is now. But fandom is a funny thing. But yeah, every once in a while, this morning I was talking to Tom King about it a little bit, and how you have to tune it all out every once in a while, and just focus on
I mean, we have to do it for our jobs as well. Just like if I go into the comments, I get to hear every side of what they liked and disliked about your writing. Like I'm the one that wrote it, combined with everyone who wants different things. So they're all trying to tell me what to do, and I'm like, I just need to tune all this out.
Yeah. So much of your guys' jobs are involving engagement. Like it is about engagement, right? And my job is not, at the end of the day. Like my job is really about I gotta write this comic, produce it, and like I like talking to you guys. I don't consider this engagement. This is just bullshit with my friends about comic stuff. Right. But it's like you guys, it's a very different ballgame. Like I don't even know. Like I
have to track so many fandoms, and I try to get like deep enough that I understand them, but not so deep that I'm in the rabbit hole of problems with them. So,
but isn't it your job too? Like, hasn't engagement become kind of like this thing where they're like, well, the bigger you get, or the more books you have under your belt, like the more marketing's going to take a back seat. Like you're the marketing team now. Right. Like you got to sell the book.
That is a bit of it. It's fascinating. Like I've always been curious about this, about like how some creators, the bigger they get, the less they talk online. Or they kind of disappear. They kind of
because they can get away with it. They're like, well, I'm getting paid. Like that's
I mean, it's tough because like I want to get the word out, right? And I want to get that's a big piece of it. So I don't mind going out there, but I don't do as much engagement as I used to do. I used to actually like talk to people and stuff. Now I'll talk to people more at conventions. I feel like, because there's something about face to face. You can have like a more
the anonymous Twitter stuff, even I hate doing. Like and I've made that very clear in all our shows. Twitter is the worst one. I hate doing it. I don't like it. I put out a tweet today just about it was simply put of, with Batman, do you consider Bruce Wayne or Batman the Mask? And there's so many arguments.
Yeah, but you started that argument.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah,
it's like being like, yo, who's the one true Peter Parker?
Okay, but see, I thought the answer was going to be simply like, I consider Bruce the Mask, or I consider
Why would
Batman
you think that?
And then it's just,
dude, it's like, never. Yeah, you're funny because you're approaching it like, this is going to be a reasonable conversation. With
what a fun discourse. Let's get into it.
Yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be totally fine. I save that stuff for like my buddies. Like you put that online, you're just like, oh no, and then you get bad players, right? Like who just want to pick a fight, and they
Well, yeah,
run
there's the
after
ones
you
that
about
then go to
everything.
every other response, and they start arguing with the other
Oh
responses.
my god!
Like whenever that kind of stuff
Who
happens
has
on
the
Twitter,
time?
These
because that
guys-
means they're pulling up my tweet, and then they're analyzing everyone else's tweets to see what they
Yeah.
can
Yeah,
argue.
I never look at comments anymore because the comments are so full. So I mean, it can be surprising at times, and everybody gets it. I mean, I think that's kind of the reality. Is there's no like perfect saint of comics or entertainment.
No.
I promise you, whatever movie you love, there's somebody out there that hates it with a passion.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Go if you like. It's always entertaining. This is maybe go look at like if there's a movie you love, go to Rotten Tomatoes and look at the Rotten reviews. That shit is enlightening. Like enlightening
Yeah.
sometimes. It's just like, oh man, that's so interesting. Like why they hate it so much for different reasons. And stuff like
I
that.
just
But
never understand, and I mean this is totally different tangent, so we're gonna go right to Dark right after this. But I've just never understood
Yeah.
people that go out of their way to hate on things because like we're in a world, and you've mentioned it a couple times. There's so much entertainment out there.
there's so
If
much
I
out there.
dislike something, I just stop reading it or watching it. Like that's
yeah,
all
move
right,
on.
here.
Yeah,
not
yeah,
for
there's
me. I'll
things
go to,
dude, there's shows that I love that I don't watch because I don't have time. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna dedicate time to something I don't.
exactly.
Like it's. But speaking of which, maybe we should move on from this. We're not talking about something we all don't like.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, I was gonna say I
We
want to
had
go
a
to Dark
perfect
Ride.
dark ride segue with me talking about going to Disneyland. We had
About
a
rides
perfect,
and parks.
So,
Yeah, we had
rides
a-
and
we had a
parks and
perfect thing.
stuff. I mean, that was
Yeah.
great with Disneyland. So, your new book is Dark Ride, right?
Yeah, dark ride. Yeah, dark ride. And there's no hidden title. It's just called Dark Ride.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
so like
yeah.
issue 4, it's gonna be a dark ride on Infinite Earths.
So I've
Yeah,
made this very
yeah.
clear to my viewers and stuff like that. I'm very much an art guy first. Story comes second because
Yeah.
I love the stories. I love like your writing and a lot of my favorite writers. But I'm so busy, I can't track everything you guys are doing. That's just what it boils down to. Like when I get told by
That's
like
okay.
people,
We can talk all about it. I know Sal read it. Sal
yeah.
had a great.
Well, what I was gonna say is
line
the
about it.
artwork is
Thank
what's hooked me on this, and the artwork looks incredible on what you've got here. And so
Yeah, Andre is dope. Andre is great.
Yeah.
I've been working with Andre for I don't know, almost 10 years, I think.
wow.
We did Birthright together. We did 50 issues of that book together, and it's
and
the
I
same
love
thing
Birthright.
since-
I mean, I still
Yeah.
have that story of when I met you about Birthright, and I got scared of you. But
That's right. I remember. Yeah, dude. We talked about this, dude.
Oh,
yeah.
That's why I'm not going into it. But yeah.
This random guy comes up to me and is like, "I make videos of your books. Is that okay?" And I'm like, "Signing books." I'm like, "What?"
I still
Yes, I
remember to
met
this
you.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've met you, but I just remember the look on your face, this bewildered, like, what? Like just
Yeah.
not angry,
Well,
but
also you're
more
asking
confused.
me about it like
but,
as I'm at the publisher, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, this is a complicated thing to talk about." Like,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah. So Dark Ride, I'm obsessed with a lot of stuff, but two of the main things I'm obsessed with is amusement parks and horror. And I've always been trying to find a way to merge those things together, and that's what Dark
Right.
Ride is about. It's about a amusement park called Devil Land, and it's about sort of the mysteries about that park and the secrets and how it was created. In the first issue, we have this kid. His name is Owen. It's his first day at work. He's going to be a trash guy at the park, but he loves Devil Land. He's obsessed with it. He knows all the history of it. And he wants to build rides. That's the thing. He's at this park in the hope that he can eventually build his own ride in the park. And then horror happens. That's a big piece of the story. A lot of horror happens with this guy. Without getting too into spoilers, because issue 1 is interesting because issue 1 is all set up, and then I do pull the rug out, and then issue 2 kind of takes the book in a different direction. I think will surprise people. Like, without getting too into spoilers about issue 1. But it's gonna definitely take some twists and turns. It is a wild ride. Like it takes some twists and turns. I think you'll be surprised by.
is it a wild ride or a dark ride?
It's a dark ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sal,
Well, it's
you
about-
had time over the
Yeah, go
weekend
ahead,
to
Sal.
actually go more into the actual reading of it because, like I said,
Yes.
I read the first couple of pages. I got to look at the artwork, and that's why I invited you under because I just want to get this book out there so that people know it exists because it's a horror book for one of my favorite writers with amazing art. But Sal, you can go deeper into it.
This
So
is true. Yeah, I can jump into it a little bit. I don't want to spoil it, like Josh said, but I did read it. I definitely didn't read it like right before the show because I knew Josh was going to be on the show, and I'm like, oh, I should read the book. Because he sent it to me, and
you wrote me a whole email. You wrote me a whole email this morning about it and about.
I read it. I literally read it when I sent.
Going on in life.
I read it when I sent you the email, and I was like, there we go.
Yeah.
Because you sent it to me like right before Labor Day, and I was like, I just scrolled through. I'm like, dope, and then I.
that's kind of how I got.
Well, dude, I do it all the time. Yeah.
This
Yeah,
weekend,
I
I
get
thought I
these
was
in
going to get a lot of
PDF.
work done. I got 0 work done. Everything's just sitting on my desk this morning. Like, okay, here we go.
Yeah. But it's
So-
great. So yeah, I describe it as Goosebumps on crack. If you've never read or watched, more likely you've seen the show Goosebumps. It's got that tone, it's got that feel. It very much is like an episode of Goosebumps. Or if you want to go a little older, Are You Afraid of the Dark, where it's like this
Yeah.
concept, this here's the premise. It's very simple but really fun, and you're like in this world, and it's this very like bookended world, and here's your ride along kid character, and this character like goes through it, and he's in a very relatable situation, like kind of like a summer job. He has bigger aspirations. It's every episode of like of Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark.
Yeah.
And
I feel like I love your analogy there, because I feel like Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark are what shaped what I love today.
absolutely.
So,
Well, no, and that's
yeah.
the thing. Like
Oh,
if you read comics, if you like horror, and you are like 25 and up, you probably love Goosebumps. And like that's the thing, is like this is
Yeah.
how it's going to be sold. It's like because there isn't that. Like when I was a very little kid, like my horror avenues was R.L. Stine, and I read every Fear Street book that exists. And I don't feel like there are a lot of like touchstones in today's like world for literary horror for kids. I don't know if this is necessarily for kids. I think it's really
No,
more
it's
of
not.
but
It's
it's
fun, like fun horror.
Fun
That has
horror.
that. I mean, definitely as we get deeper in, there's a little more. It gets a more graphic at times.
Sure.
It gets scarier, but I look at a lot of like Steven Spielberg movies, especially where like Goonies, where it's like yes, there are younger people in it, but then the horror
Temple of
sometimes can
Doom.
be
It's like
Temple of Doom, Gremlins.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of vibe. I was a big fan of this book when I was a kid. I'm not sure you guys ever read this before.
scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yeah.
Love
Dude,
that.
I love this book. This is like one of my favorite books to read in elementary school. I love this thing. So this is actually a collection that has all of them in it. But I would get these, man. Every book fair, if I saw one of these, that was the book.
Hell yeah,
And
of course.
I'm gonna buy that book because I need that. I need that for my collection.
This is like this book inspires a lot of stuff that I do in comics. Is this, and so this R.L. Stine, like a lot of that stuff went into my feelings on this, and then you take that plus the craziness of amusement parks, I think amusement parks are, go ahead.
Well, you grew up going to Disneyland, like as a kid, like you and
all the time.
Your brother,
all the time.
Like would
no,
go?
No, I would go just all the time. Like I would go a lot when I was a kid. Like I lived really close to Disneyland. And so I go to Disneyland, Universal, Magic Mountain, Six Flags. Knott's Berry Farm.
Oh sure.
Yeah, all the time. As
a kid in like the 80s, 90s, like running around amusement parks, like there was a level of supervision that was not existent back then, where like you could create worlds, stories, experiences that you can only go to fiction now to find. I can imagine that there were like amped up versions of like a story like this, where it's like you get lost in an amusement park. You as a kid, like just running around.
Getting in trouble in amusement parks. Like I have so many memories of stuff, and but I used to like ditch school to go to Disneyland, especially once I had a car. Once I had a car, it was over.
That's not ditching school anymore. I'm thinking you're like Bastion from Neverending Story, where it's like I ditched.
Oh no! When I was little, like elementary school age, I'd go on all these adventures at amusement parks, and get the trouble at amusement parks, and even with this one, like the perspective I have on amusement parks, it's changed from being a kid to an adult, and I have all these different experiences. Like one year, my wife and I went to Disneyland for Halloween, and we went on actual Halloween, and they had this thing where like during the fireworks show, they shut down Fantasyland during the fireworks show. But then when the fireworks were done, they reopened it, and we just happened to be like right there when they reopened it. So we walked into Fantasyland. There was no one there. Yeah. You're talking about late at night, and there's not a single person in there. And I'm like, this is weird. Like I've been in Disneyland a couple times. There's nobody in the park. Yeah, and it is super weird. Like be on a ride or walking down Main Street, and there's nobody around. And then being in Fantasyland, where the music is still playing, but there's no one there. And then my wife and I went on the Snow White ride, and we got on the Snow White ride, and it's interesting how much like the ambient sound of people fills that park. Like you have the sounds they want you to hear, because this is also such a controlled environment, right?
Yeah.
Like they control the smells that you smell in that park.
Right.
Like every little bit of that park is controlled, and they're watching us. I mean, you do one thing bad, boom, like they're there in seconds.
Yeah.
Like they have little secret passageways. They'll get to you quick.
Right.
And they have all kinds of stuff. So I've always been fascinated by that. But the ambient sound of people in an amusement park, when you don't have that and you hear certain things differently and it's missing, it is a different
Changes,
experience.
yeah.
And we went on the Snow White ride. To go on the Snow White ride and there's no one on that ride, you finally settle into like, oh, that's right, this ride was supposed to be scary. Like now it's totally different. They remodeled it now, but that ride originally was scary, you know. And so you go on there and you're like, oh man, this takes on a whole other level of scary. And then a few years ago, my wife and I went to Disneyland Paris, and this is before Disney had come in and like they regained ownership and they really put the work into it. They're putting it now.
Yeah.
It was wild because we went and it was like off season. A bunch of the park was closed because low attendance. So they'd have like, you know, they have like 4 restaurants, but only 1 is open.
Yeah.
So that's a whole weird thing. You're like walking around this park and there's nobody there. At one point, we went on the Star Tours ride, which at the time was still the original Star Tours ride from the 80s. They hadn't updated it at all.
Oh.
So we're talking about every little bit of it. It looked like, dude, it was like going back in time.
Yeah.
But not going back in time where you're like, this is brand new. It's like going back in time. This is not brand new. I'll just put it like that.
I'm a little scared it's
get
gonna
on
put
You're in the
you
upside
midnight.
down. Yeah.
Dude, yes, exactly. And so we're on Star Tours, and somebody in the back row throws up in the middle of Star Tours. And so here's the thing. Let me tell you this, man. Like, if you're on Star Tours in Disneyland in California, and somebody throws up on that ride, they would be there. Like,
Yeah.
security would be there the moment the doors open. They'd be like, let's do this. They shut the ride down. They go clean. Boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom. Right? It would be instantaneous. Right? We walked for 15 minutes trying to find an employee of Disneyland to be like, yo, someone just threw up on Star Tours. Like, we couldn't find anybody.
No,
I feel bad whoever went on that ride afterwards because
because it was there.
Yeah.
it was there. So we're walking around, and there's like a long hill to like leave the exit. It isn't like in Disneyland where you walk out and you're like, we're in a gift shop. It was like, it's not like that. You just walk out. And so we're walking this long hill, and we were like, yo. And again, like we're silly Americans. We don't speak. My wife speaks more than I do, but like I don't speak a word of French, right? So I'm like wandering around trying to find some employee, and then finding an employee, and they only speak a little bit of English. Me trying to be like, someone just threw up on Star Tours.
Yeah. Right.
But that it gives you all these different like not every amusement park is built like Disneyland, and you start realizing that some are a little broken down. You know, I've been to some where it's not the same. You know, you go to fairgrounds and they go in the dark rides in these fairgrounds, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is big time janky. This is big
Yeah.
time busted up. You know.
Right.
And all of those feelings of that went into this, and then this where it's like Devilland is not Disneyland. They wish they were, but they're not. And it
Yeah.
has this very dark history and the stuff they've tried to hide about the place. There's things that have happened in the park that they don't want anyone to know about. But it's also about like what is even scary now. Like for me as a creator working on horror books, and I have a lot of friends that work on horror books. I always think about this a lot. Like, you turn the news on and it's like there's so much more on the news. It's way scarier than any movie,
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
there are things you've seen in real life that you could be like, oh, that was traumatizing. I can watch any movie now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so when you think about all that, and then you're like, all right, now I have to give you something new that's scary. And that's part of what the story is about too, is like one of the characters is like, how do I even scare people now? Like, what can I build that would actually scare somebody now?
Yeah.
Also I think some horror fans are jaded. So you have that.
Oh, I definitely am.
Well, they're like
Well,
chasing
did
like
you
the
ever-
real horror. Like they're like, this isn't real. This isn't true. And like this.
Yeah. Did you ever go to like not Scary Farm or Hollywood Horror Nights or anything like that?
I've never been to any of them, man. I've been to Disneyland twice, or Disney.
I've
Disney
never
World
gotten to
twice
go
in
to
my
the
life.
horror nights. I've gone to a lot of theme parks to the point where I'm jaded about theme parks in general at this point. Like the last time I got to go was Disneyland like 3 or 4 months ago with a bunch of other influencers
nice.
that were doing a thing. And I got to go into it and they're all like excited and wowed. And I'm just like, yeah, that one's over there. That one's kind of boring. That one, let's go check out this.
You're like, let's go to Star Wars and then get the hell out of here.
Yeah, exactly. And I realized
man.
I've just gotten jaded now because I love parks and I've just been to too many now. So
Yeah, you and I have to go to Disneyland sometimes. I'll show you my whole system. Dude,
Okay.
I have a system at Disneyland that I can get us on every ride in Disneyland. This is not California Adventure, because California is a whole other beast. I can get us on every single ride at Disneyland by lunch.
Ooh.
I have a
see,
system.
that'll be
I've done it
interesting because
multiple
I
times.
hate because I had the when I first started doing this YouTube thing. We initially
Yeah.
worked under a company that was owned by Disney. so they could get you free VIP tours.
Yeah.
So
Dude, I've done that, and I still have been able to beat it. Like, I've done a VIP
Really?
tour.
You can't beat a VIP tour at Disneyland.
was
Like,
so
because
dope.
you beat line everywhere. And ever since that ended, I can't stand the 1.5 hour lines. I'm like,
Dude,
I'm
I
not
don't
getting
know
in this
how-
line.
No, I have a whole system that like beats the lines, but I have done the VIP tour as well, and yeah, that's a whole. The only thing with the VIP tour that's rough is that some of the rides, it's about the experience of also like
Going
the
through.
queue to get to the ride,
Yeah.
and sometimes the VIP stuff skips it, so you
Yeah.
kind of miss some of that magic. But there's lots of do. Yeah, well, you should check out Hollywood Horror Nights sometime. That is, I used to go to a lot when I was a kid and in my earlier 20s. Go to that one and go to Not Scary Farm a lot, and a lot of that went into making this book, and just try to do a horror book, that takes place in an amusement park. It's a little different, I didn't want it to just be like monsters and gore. I wanted there to be, a little more depth to it of the challenges of being creative and the challenges of trying to make something scary.
Right.
That's a big piece of what this book is about.
Yeah.
Out of the stuff that you have written, since we don't want to spoil Dark Ride.
Yeah.
Tonally, what would you kind of relate this to? Maybe Mike Nailbiter or something? So like your fans who know your work.
I think it's a pretty even mix between Nailbiter and Birthright. Like his Birthright was very much about family, it was very much a family story, like a happy family. And then you have Nailbiter that was like a fun horror.
Yeah.
And I wanted to combine those two things.
Okay.
There is a family element of Dark Ride, but they are a screwed up family.
Right.
So that there is some family elements that are like it. So it's like with Birthright, I was like, oh, I want to make a book that is like about this family going through something traumatic, but at the end they're like, we're together. And then over here, it's like, oh no, this is a family that kind of hates each other, and there's a lot of conflict among each other, and then that will build out into other stuff in the book. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's going to be interesting once people actually get deeper into it, because there are some twists and turns in it, like I said before. And I think once people get to issue 2 and you're like, oh, that's what this book's actually about, I think it will surprise people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, almost like I remember Birthright kind of started like that, where I opened it up and was like, what am I reading? Oh, that's what it's about. Like,
yeah.
I don't remember where you did the turn, because that was so many years ago at this point. If it was
the end of issue 1. Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah,
I do like that kind of thing.
Yeah, Dark Ride is all set up. It's all like establishing the world. Establishes most of the cast. There's a couple pieces that are kind of hinted that we don't really introduce until issue 2. But we really get deeper into just like, this is what this world is like, and here's like the set dressing for the mystery of it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was more about me setting the table for what this world is gonna be like. I just wanted to do a horror book that was something different, and I think that was a big piece of this. Was like, I love horror. I love amusement parks, and I've been trying to figure something out. And one Saturday morning, I was like by myself watching horror movies and having coffee, like you do. And I just was thinking about, like, I wanted to try something different with horror, and so that's what this book is.
Yeah. Can we also talk about the there's some variant covers that are out for this book?
Oh yeah,
that
we
are
can start with the variant
awesome.
covers. Yeah. We have one that's by Sweeney Boo. That's really cool. We have one that Martine did. Yeah, Martine. I can see all of them. Yeah, I can see all of them. Martine did one that's for. Let me make sure I get the names right here real quick.
I like
Yeah,
this
so-
Pixar style like movie poster kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh
or DreamWorks.
yeah.
Maybe DreamWorks more, but yeah, you know what I mean.
Let me see here. Yeah, so we have. Yeah, so Andre did the first one. Martine Mazzario. He does Ice Cream Man. And that book is really, really cool. I've been a fan of his for a long time, and he was one of our first picks, and he like nailed it. He actually sent us like 4 different cover roughs, and we were like, we're going to use all of these. Sweeney Boo, and then Tony Fleece, who did Stray Dogs. He and I are friends, and so I went out, reached out to him, and I'm like, yo, so this book is a little weird. It kind of plays around with amusement parks and kind of Disney stuff. So I was like, I have this idea. I want to do homage covers to Disney movie posters. And he totally got it. So I was like, all right, the first one is Little Mermaid. That's one that Trish did. The artist that was on Stray Dogs. She actually did the first one. It's like a Little Mermaid homage.
Yeah.
And then we have a Beauty and the Beast one. We have a DuckTales one. We have a Snow White one. We have a bunch. There's a ton of them coming. And so I talked to Tony about it. And Tony's really busy. And so he was like, well, here's what I could do. I could basically like art direct it all, because he understood the concept of it so well. So he's like, I can art direct it all. and he knew the artist that he worked on Stray Dogs, because Stray Dogs had a gazillion covers.
Yeah.
So he was like, I know which artist to go to, and so he hooked it up. And yeah, we have a few other covers that are coming that are really cool.
That's great.
There's a variant that one of the stores did that's like a Mario Kart homage, but with Darkrai. That's really fun. Yeah, it's really cool. I'll show it to you guys later.
Nice.
It's
Okay,
really, really
I just
fun.
linked all those covers to Dan, the ones you were describing, so he should be able to plaster those up there.
Oh,
He's the one who's
sweet.
gonna be editing
Okay,
this.
cool. Yeah, I can send you all kinds of stuff. But yeah, we're doing a lot of cool stuff in this book. Like we're eventually, this is maybe too much of a secret, but yeah, we're making a map of the park, like
sweet.
a full-on map. So that'll be like a promo thing later. But yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff on this book that I think people will be excited about. Like, yeah, if you like horror and you like amusement parks, I think you'll dig this book. I mean, really, if you just like horror, you'll get it.
Yeah,
I think
right.
if you dig amusement parks, it's gonna have like another level for
Exactly.
you personally. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Sal, did you like that I had the YouTube guy in there?
I love the YouTube guy. Yeah, no, and it was
Yeah, I
it was
love the YouTube
authentic
guy.
AF, man. Like I was like, this is real. Like he was, by the way,
Dude.
and for full disclosure, he's not Benny, he's not me. He's a
okay, I
different
was
guy.
gonna say,
Oh,
like,
no, he's
am I
nobody.
missing something?
But he is
No, he's
Yeah,
nobody.
this is-
Yeah.
he is a Disney vlogger. Like he is a
Oh
Disney
yeah,
vlogger.
I've met
He's-
them. They annoy me.
He's defunct. He's like an on-site defunct land. I was like, it was so like I was like,
Oh,
this is
dude,
so
yeah, I
authentic.
actually wanna. James was telling me. James suggested this. He's like, I should send issue 1 to the guy from Defunct Land. I'm forgetting his name right
Yes.
now. Actually, I saved his contact and I haven't sent it to him yet.
If you could, like,
Uh,
if you could do some kind of like synergy where like Defunct Land makes a video in that universe about the.
Oh, dude, yeah,
sick.
I know somebody who's gonna do that. So there is one guy who works for one of the websites, and he's gonna do a blog as
write-up?
if he was, yeah, as if he had gone to the park.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, he suggested that this morning, and I was like, hell yeah, do that. But yeah, I watch a lot of those things. Like I watch Offhand Disney. Like I watch a lot of different people talking about amusement parks.
Yeah.
My kids are funny because every once in a while, like on a weekend, my kids will come in and they'll be like, we want to watch a ride video, and we'll sit there and watch some video. Either it's a POV like walkthrough of a ride,
Yep.
you know, or it's
I
just
watch
a
way too many of
movie
those.
about Oh, dude,
and you
I
can-
watch a lot.
I also
Like, a lot of
I
them.
watch a lot of the Disney food ones though. There's a new dish over at Disney. Let's go eat
Dude,
it.
I
I'm
watch
like,
those too. Yeah,
okay.
what is it? What's that one?
Let's go
called?
eat
There's
the
one.
dish.
Yeah.
There's.
I know who you're
What is
talking
it
about.
called? DFB or whatever. Like
Yeah,
there's
one of
one
those.
that's. Yeah, I watch a lot of those, but that's what that guy came from, because it's like,
He's got
and that's
his-
not.
yeah.
And let me tell you, it is full love. Like there's
Yeah.
no mocking.
No, he's
that
not like an
guy.
idiot. Like he doesn't look like a like exaggerated straw man depiction. He
Right.
like, but he has all
No,
the
no,
things
no.
like, don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell for notifications. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, click the bell for notifications. Are you kidding me? He says it. Damn, like deep cut.
Dude, I watch a lot of those
You
videos,
watch
so I
YouTube,
know it.
you know, like that's.
Yeah,
I watch,
like,
I
there's
hate
no
saying
scripts.
that
You
on
just watch it a
every video.
lot.
I hate every video. It's like, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for
Yeah.
notifications, and don't
Yeah,
forget
that's
to check out our Patreon and YouTube
I
membership.
love that YouTube added like
I
so many
didn't
different
put in-
steps. Yeah, good.
I didn't put in Patreon. That was the only one I didn't do. I didn't do the Patreon
Yeah.
membership one. I didn't think about that. Well, because I got to a point where it was like it's only 4 panels, and I was like,
yeah, we kept
dude,
putting
I could,
all in there.
I could put so much more in here and make it more authentic, but
It worked.
You
Yeah,
should
that
have had
was
you
cool.
should have had 2 panels of just the outro, and that would have
Right,
been
yeah.
authentic.
What would have been great is
he
actually
does have a
panel.
one-panel outro.
Yeah.
What's that?
There's a panel where he's like, he goes, don't forget to like, and just one panel thing going like, oh my God, my life. And then,
Oh no! But in issue 2, he's making the video, and one of the characters like photobombs him in the middle of the intro.
yeah,
Like he's doing the intro in the park, and one of the characters photobombs, and he's like, "God damn it! I have to read you the whole intro." And he's
That's
like, all
so
upset about
great.
it.
That's so
yeah,
perfect.
it happens. He's
Yeah.
an important character.
Oh,
He's
no.
like
Okay.
because he's like one of the few people who's actually paying attention to what's going on in the park, and he
Oh.
videotapes everything, right? He
Right.
videotapes everything. So he's like, he's caught shit on film
Yeah.
that nobody's supposed to catch on film, and so
That's
that's
dope.
that's part of a thing. Like
Wow.
he's actually investigating. He talks about it. He's like,
Yeah.
he's investigating the mysteries, and so he's like the one person that is like, I think there's something wrong with this part.
Right. He's the one who
Uh,
notices. That's
He's
fun.
the one that notices it, but no one takes him seriously because he's
No.
a, you know,
'Cause
they're
he's a
like, oh, he's
YouTuber.
an internet sleuth.
Oh,
He calls
trust me,
himself
I
an internet
know.
sleuth.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 10 years now, and I
Yeah,
still
tell my
don't get taken
parents.
seriously. Yeah.
Like,
No, my parents like what I do. At least they don't know what it is, but they appreciate
Oh,
that I
that's good.
do it.
Well, I watched this documentary. I watched this documentary a while ago, and it wasn't a YouTuber. It was just a guy who was like, I'm an internet sleuth, and I thought that was so interesting.
yeah.
Like this guy that just uses not crowdfunding, I forget what it's called, but he just uses the internet to basically, even though he's not there, like there was a crime in a different part of the United States, and he was just able to pull information together and actually kind of figured something out from that. Like I think that's so crowdsourcing, right? Like I think that's so interesting. And so with this guy, like Theo is his name, like Theo, I just wanted Theo to like represent that kind of, and that's real. Like, I mean, I've seen it. You go in the parks, you'll see people walking around filming and stuff, and I watched some of those videos. I love them. So it's like I wanted that. I felt like that would if there was a park like this, there's 100% somebody who goes there like almost every day.
Right.
And originally there was a guy for a while that was going into the parks back when it like reopened after the pandemic, and he would go in almost every day and do an update of what was happening in the park, but because it was like right after the pandemic, not a lot was going on. So a lot of times his updates were like, this parking structure is being built. Like, and he would talk about the parking structure. And so I almost made a joke about that in there, where I almost had him be like, they built a new parking structure, but I was like, no one is going to get that joke but me and my wife.
That is such a deep cut.
Like, no one is going to know this joke. I don't remember that. I don't remember even the guy's name on that channel.
Although
that the funny thing with the go ahead.
Well, I was going to say just that would have sold the like the park's in trouble kind of message, because I think
but
we get that so much. There's a conversation between the
there's conversations
with friends, like we get that.
Yeah, I originally had it be that the park up earlier in the issue, they were going to talk about how the park was in trouble earlier, but we kind of wanted to sprinkle it through a little bit more. That's actually the reason why I changed some of that stuff.
I like the turn. I like the turn that like you're kind of like, oh yeah, okay, and then it's like we're and I'm like, oh, right on.
Yeah, and then you have that character Sam, who is the creator's son. Yeah, so he feels a lot of pressure of like living up to his father's legacy, and also he feels like he has to take care of the park, and he's kind of the prince of Devilland, and so people kind of look at him and be like, well, that guy, it's like your dad is your dad is a master of horror. What do you got? And there's pieces of that you start to recognize as the book goes on, but it's like that character is really complicated because as you see in the first issue, he's kind of an asshole, but there's like layers to that.
You understand why. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to wrap up our interview here.
Yes,
I think we've gone on 1,001 tangents. You would fit right into our show weekly, because that's what we do every show. 1,001 tangents. But thank you so much for being on here today. Where can people find Dark Ride? And Dark Crisis, you can just go to any comic book store right now, and you got where's Dark Ride?
So Dark Ride, it comes out on October 5th. The FOC is this upcoming Monday, the 12th of September. If you want more information, you either go to Skybound or you go to my Twitter. I'll be tweeting about it all week. Is Williamson_Josh. I'll be talking about a lot of it there and showing covers and preview art. Comicbook.com today just announced they showed a bunch of preview art for the book. There's a lot of stuff out there you can find out about Dark Ride.
Okay, awesome. And thank you again for being on here. It's so much fun always chatting with you.
Yeah, it's always
love having you on the show.
All right, guys, same weird outro to go with the weird intro, I know, but don't forget to check out our sponsors, GFUEL and Shortbox. Go check out Absolutely Marvel and DC, and I hope you guys really enjoyed today's special episode of Comics Experiment.